What's up, hardship heroes? You are back on the other side with me, Mike G, and today we have a guest that has lived a few lives in one body. From fighter in the UFC to businessman, and now now because fighting in cages wasn't exciting enough, he's going to decide to run for governor of Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, he is redemption in an MMA gloves and a suit, the one and only Brad Kohler. How's it going, Brad?
Good, Mike. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Sorry for messing up your intro.
I was expecting that. Come on, man.
I warned you.
I mean,
I'm just a dude.
It's not like you're Joe Rogan here. Come on, man. No.
I appreciate
And
that. I don't want to be that busy, Joe Rogan. Oh no.
If you were this was a real deal, you'd be able to edit that out, no problem, man. But come on. I love no editing.
Edit. I don't even know how to do
right.
it.
See, I love no editing. Let's go.
All right,
Yeah.
man. I want to know where you're from and what life was like as a kid growing up for you.
Yeah. Well, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, west side of Cleveland, and growing up for me, I got, you know what, my light's off here. Hold on one second. Hey, Libby, let me just turn my light on real quick here.
Yeah.
Just wondering what was going on there for a minute. So yeah, sorry about that. Grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Second oldest of five. Parents were, back then it was different. We're in the 60s and 70s, and beating your kids back then was like a neighborhood sport. So wife beating, all that stuff was legal back then, and cops show up and hey, calm it down, or don't make me come back, kind of stuff. School was school, man. It was nothing like it is today. You had to study. You had to, you had to show up. You're sick, got the cold, you go to school.
You had to cut your hair.
Yeah. Boxers back then weren't a thing hanging out. I'll tell you that, right? So, being in school on time, studying, disciplinary was a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a baby boomer, actually I'm a Gen X. Yeah, 64. I'm at the trail end of the Gen X. Yeah. And it was different than it is now. And I look back and I think about, it was tough, but I don't cry poor me. It was just who it is. Mm-hmm. A lot of people went through that and, got through it no problem. And the Gen Xers are the workers of the world, right now they're considered like the workers of the world, and but we also left a mess for the millennials and Gen Z. So that's why I got into politics too, because I see a problem that we had, and I want to help clean it up and better the next generation. So kind of moved on through high school as a state wrestling champ in Ohio, state running back and state track, and went on to college. It just wasn't for me, just wasn't. I was always a decent student. I caught on to things, remember things pretty easy. Mm-hmm. This wasn't. I was an athlete. I wanted to be a pro athlete, and my thing was football. Wrestling was a close second, and just kind of growing up was training, a lot of discipline. I had an uncle who was a world champ for the Marines, and he was a stud, short, stocky stud, and very, very good guy. Very good guy. Unlike my parents, he put the time into me and was very respectful and taught me a lot. So,
who were your heroes as a kid?
Boy, I'll tell you what. I gotta say, heroes. Well, I more than anything else, I wanted to be a football player, and I was number 34 in high school. That was me, number 34. So it was a combination between Walter Payton and Earl Campbell. So the speed and the power, kind of thing. And I was actually pretty fast, and I was actually pretty strong. So, but I was short, so as it wrestling wise, never really was. I didn't watch wrestling, never went to wrestling camp. I went to wrestling practice and to the weight room a lot. So bodybuilding was the thing. Back then, it was Arnold and Franco Columbo and Frank Zane and Tom Platz. And, those were the guys that on my wall, So it was always that big muscular kind of person. But I wanted to play football, and I was lucky enough to play a little bit in the minor league football systems after college, and which was the farm league for the NFL back then. And got a couple of weeks with the Cleveland Browns camp, and got booted. Short white guy and running back doesn't work in the NFL, so not back then. But no problem. I went back to wrestling and met up with Mark Coleman back in 1990. Probably 1994, 1993, 1994 in Columbus, Ohio. He was, I think he just came off his national championship in Ohio State. And we met up because I was a state champ. He was a state champ in Ohio. And we started training together, and boy, he kicked my butt for a long time. And if it wasn't for Mark, I'd probably be rich and a businessman now, and probably own a big house on the hill. But no, I saw the dream of wanting to be a wrestler again.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. I left my business that was growing rapidly, and had a thick wallet, and I just decided to get back into wrestling and follow my dream of being an athlete, and football didn't work out for me, which it happens, but I just saw that, man, he's on the Olympic team, and I was like, how cool would that be? So I trained with him up until the 96 Olympic trials, and I went to the Chattanooga preliminary trials and finished third. I didn't make weight by a pound. I had no time left over. So I went from the 180 class to the 190, which was extremely bigger guys. And I took third, so giving up a little size, always gave up size and height. I was always the shortest guy in wrestling or fighting. I don't remember being taller than anybody that I competed against. And, thought that was that was the end of it. So then got into fighting. Yeah.
How did you pick MMA? How did that come about? How with the transition from wrestling to MMA?
Well, we were watching the UFC on TV at the wrestling house in Ohio State, and
Mark had already competed, right? 95 is when.
Not yet. No, we were watching when Don Fry first was 93 when Gracie and them were there. We were watching it, and then it was kind of scary to watch back then. Remember the big black crosses and the skull, and 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Yeah.
No holds barred, no time.
The refs and officials not knowing what to do at given times.
Man. And so me and Mark Holm, I don't know if Mark Clover told you the story about how we really got into this, right?
Okay.
Well, Mark and I were out after training. We would train a couple times a day, and just me and him. And we decided to go over to Victory Bar on High Street for something or another. And all of a sudden we walk up to all the OSU lineman football guys, right? And these are very big guys. And of course, Mark's a big guy too. And I'm the shortest one. And at that point, I'm only like 185 or 190, So I wasn't that big. And some drunk guy just comes plowing into us. And of course, he just plows me right over, right? So I'm about to kick his butt. Mark grabs me and puts me up against the wall. He goes, you know how Mark Carmen talks, right? Kohler, don't. Yeah, cops come, man. Just chill. So like,
that's good, man.
Cops actually came over. This is no lie. Cops came over, and me and Mark are looking, and I'm like, we're cool. We're not going to do nothing. Cops are like, no, this guy's been kicked out of 3 bars. He has been very disruptive. And if you were to, want to go talk to him in your own way, we're going to go this way. So you guys go ahead and do whatever you want to do.
You handle it.
And
We're
I was
busy.
like, and I mean, I'm from Cleveland, so we, scrapping in Cleveland is, our national pastime.
Mm-hmm.
So I went after him, and he kept mouthing off to me. Finally, he came at me, and that was all she wrote. I knocked him clean out, and of course, my sidekick, who is protecting me from my identity and my private, like, let's not get caught kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kohler, let's get out of here. Kohler, let's go. Come on, Kohler, let's go. Well, gee, Mark, you couldn't have said my name enough. Thank God, use my, street name, Johnny Nine Fingers there, But, we're driving home, and he's like, Kohler, I got to get in the UFC, man. He goes, that was awesome. And I'm like, look, I'm going, you didn't do nothing. But,
oh my God.
And then that was it. We started kind of training for that. And Mark left for Arizona, and I was kind of stuck. And then we decided to move back to Minnesota. The ex-wife back then and my daughter. And just by chance, a guy at Lifetime Fitness saw that I had Ohio State Wrestling on there. He asked if I wrestled. I go, no, I just kind of train with the guys there, but I was, a wrestler in high school, state champ. And he asked me if I'd help him train for this tournament coming up because his first fight's against a wrestler. And I said, okay, I'll train with you. So it's the world famous academy now. Greg Nelson's The Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I trained there. And back then it was carpet. There was no mats.
Ooh.
Carpet. Okay.
Ooh.
So trained there. And of course, if you remember Dave Monet and Sean Shirk.
Yep. Sean's been on the show.
Sean, yeah. Love those guys. They were great training partners and good men. And we have some great stories together as well. And but did well. I started kind of getting, like I've shown up to train a lot, and there wasn't guys there to train with. So I branched off with Militich a little bit. Mm-hmm. Monet came down with me sometimes. Sean came out. But I would usually meet, who trained at Militich's camp. I mean, that was the place to go get beat up if you want to learn how to get beat up, right? Mm-hmm. So trained there and learned a lot from Jeremy Horn, mm-hmm. Jens Pulver, Tim Silva was there. I was there the day Tim walked in, and we were like, oh, no, the basketball court's this way, buddy. But what a tough SOB he turned out to be because he was horrible coming in. Mm-hmm. But then the man, he just never left the gym. He came in and said, I'm the next UFC heavyweight champion.
One of the hardest workers in the history of the sport.
Yeah, and even Mel just goes, whatever, man, go ahead. Yeah, no problem. Come on in. We need another punching bag, And I remember just, rolling with Tim just a few times I was down there. And every time I came down, I was like, oh, gosh, this guy's getting bigger, stronger, better shape, And he literally slept there in the weight room, too, upstairs. And then would just the commitment from him was amazing. Learned a lot from that type of personality, And Matt Hughes, another one who we would go head to head and scrap. And it was, we were both in great wrestling shape. So it was, always a good battle there. And then sometimes Randleman would come over and Coleman would come over. So I wrestled with Randleman and Coleman a lot in Columbus. Mm-hmm. And that's where I really kind of got my hard-nosed wrestling, I guess, feet back under me, Mm-hmm. So, it was just such great experiences. You never think that training to kill yourself is a great experience, But right. They push you to new higher limits. And it's, if you want to get better, you have to train with better people. Yeah. And you become a product of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why it kind of disappoints me to see the sport today, because a lot of these people today have, fake black belts. They train for 2 years and open their own gym. For me, I tell my kids, I go, you want to be a champion, you got to go train by a champion. You have to train with a champion, someone who knows how to get there, and not someone who says, I had a 8-12 record in high school. Let me show you how to win.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the mentality and so the generation of fighting back then and the hardcore of the athletes and the level of competition will never be there again. These fighters today are fighters, okay? But you take Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, Tank Abbott, Severn, all these guys from those days, and you transport them to today in that same age and shape, they would still be the dominating factors and the household names of the sport. It's just a fact. It's kind of like taking all the wealth in America, spread it out evenly. Okay, give us some time. All that money will end up in the rich hands again. Same rich people hands, because it's about your habits, routines, and rituals, your mentality, and your heart. Because your true character if you can not lie to yourself. Oh yeah, I trained 6 hours today. You just got out of bed. What are you talking about? People lie to themselves. Back then, I mean, I keep saying back then, but it's true. It's true. It's a rarity to see, like, Kyle Sanders, Gable Stevenson. These are guys that are going to be the next icons because of their training methods, and you take those type of things, you echo those in life, and you're probably going to be successful no matter what you do.
Yeah. Speaking of icons, I wanted to mention a mutual friend of ours who I think it's safe to say has probably promoted more MMA fights than maybe anyone ever. Monty Cox. How did you link up with Monty?
Monty Cox. I don't recall that name.
He's a quiet guy, kind of short.
Oh, I know.
Real gray.
He's the one with that wife that hit on me at the bar, right?
That's the one.
That's the one
exactly.
Yes. I'm just joking. I've always loved Monty. He's just been a great guy to have in my life. And there's many guys that you go through these times with, like, oh, what a jerk, what an ass, and then you go, oh my God, he's, of course we have those moments where you get mad at somebody or you say something negative, and you got to grow out of that,
Sure.
And but you look back and go, God, this is a guy that really built the sport, and yes, his wife came up to me in a bar. I had no idea who she was, because I had my first Long Island iced tea, and as I was like, hi, you come here often? And she's like, Brad, I'm Missy, Monty's wife.
Just with Monty.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. I told my brother, take me home now. I'm like, somebody roofied me. It's called alcohol, Yeah. But Monty and I have so many great stories. He's given more people opportunities to make something of their life than it's been more than a promotion that Monty did. I tried to do that here in Minnesota also when I started promoting here, giving these people opportunities. And so, sometimes I walk in, they call me the godfather of MMA in Minnesota. I'm like going, well, Monty Cox actually came with me. He's, probably the godfather of MMA, but it truly is something that you can see in people's eye. They want to try and do something with their life, or they see a vision themselves, and to get in that cage and see if you got the kahunas to actually do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, have you ever fought?
Not professionally in a ring or anything. School playground.
You walk into a cage, and you're locked into a cage against somebody that may or may not have trained harder than you.
Hmm.
And you know it. I mean, it is a different element of adrenaline, excitement, nervousness, anxiety, all at one time.
Hmm.
When you're looking around, there's a cage around you. You know,
No way out.
it is. It's a different element that
Hmm.
brings this atmosphere of blood, death, and destruction, right? And
Hmm.
so when you walk in there and you do that, it is an amazing thing to feel. So he offered people an opportunity to be who you want to be in a sport that was growing, a sport that was new, and a sport that a lot of people could not do. Oh, it's a fact. People tried it and they learned lessons very fast, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, we've seen 5-second fights to, you know, 1 hour fights, and
Hmm.
but all in all, it's the proving ground.
Yeah.
Take boxing aside, and of course, don't take this the wrong way. I don't mean to offend anybody, but karate's not fighting. Taekwondo is not fighting. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, you take jujitsu, wrestling, boxing, and you put those together, you got yourself a human weapon that, your weapons fighting out there. So when you have somebody who's like a third-degree black belt in boxing, or I mean in jiu-jitsu, he's all-American wrestler and the Golden Glove boxer, you have that in one
Hmm.
package, and you're out there yelling, "You suck!" you know, you might want to, you know,
Hmm.
yeah, it's people are weird like that. They don't understand the chess matches to win, because you can get caught
Hmm.
in a submission. You can open up yourself to a knee to the face as you're shooting a double leg. And so it's a lot different training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take me back to 1997, Hook and Shoot
yeah,
2, I
yeah,
believe it was. Yeah, walk me through your professional debut.
yeah. So that belt up there behind me represents, I believe, it's still the longest fight on U.S. soil with Travis Fulton.
Hmm.
They have it at 57 minutes. I have the tape. It's actually an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not going to
Wow.
argue. I'm not going to argue. It's but Travis was the most experienced fighter at the world back then. It
Hmm.
was my first fight. I was 33. He was 23, I believe, or 22. He had 27 or 28 fights, and I had 0 fights. And so
Hmm.
when the guy that I was training with for this tournament got injured, I was asked to step in, and I was like, "Wow, okay," And I was starting to get the hang of not tapping out every day, and so I decided, why not? Why not try it, right? Um, so I did. My first fight with Travis was over 100 headbutts to his face.
God.
While I'm in his guard, heels to the back of my kidney, heel kicks to the back of my shins. It
Mm.
was all. I mean, it was. You know, there was no mouthpieces and cups back then, man. It was bare knuckle too, by the way.
Mm.
So then it was kind of funny because
Ooh.
not in the corner, in the lobby of this Taekwondo school,
Mhm.
and over, not in the center of the mat, was a pipe coming up through the mat that had a foam duct tape covering on it to protect us from. We had to move around the pipe coming out, okay, and then there was one coming out of the wall too. So we had obstacles. We had obstacles in the fight on top of no rounds and bare knuckles. Okay, so I was
Wow.
on Travis for quite a long time, and then his knuckles in the back of my head, my knuckles in the side of his, a couple flurries every now and then. But I would kind of get his arm pinched, and as soon as I pinched, I'd be boom throwing
Mhm.
the headbutts, And I don't know if you ever saw my neck, but I'm, pretty strong neck and back and legs. And he couldn't get me off of him, as a powerful wrestler. And his nose was just coming off, man. It was coming off. And finally, the blood was just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everywhere. And he knew he wasn't going to get me off. It was about, I would say, a solid hour. We'll just compromise on 1 hour, 60 minutes straight of me headbutting and punching. And then I had about a 20-minute rest in the back room. Got a little water, wiped off, this, that, and the other. And just sat down there, cooled down for a second. The other fight just ended. I'm like, what was it, 12 minutes? After the introduction and this, that, and the other. And okay, boom. And so 20 minutes later, I'm fighting again. I had to fight, I forget his name, Frank something from New York. He was a big cop, black belt in judo.
I can't remember.
Okay, big guy. And so he had the judo gi on, which are those thick things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we're rolling around, we're circling around, and I go to tie up with him. And I tie up with him, and he uppercuts me and hits me square in my nose. Now, again, I'm already all messed up from Travis, right? And so I had a sweet, it's called a Romanian arm throw, where you step in, spin around, take the guy's arm, and you go down, and he goes over top of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, hit it, came on top of him, boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. We're at about the 22-minute mark, and I threw this beautiful hip hook shot to his ribs and cracked his ribs through his gi, and you just hear him, and then all of a sudden he starts tapping.
Yep.
And so they had to actually slide him off the mat. Okay, and so went back again, cooling down, this, that, and the other. I mean, it was probably 15 minutes this time. And now I'm fighting in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you remember Kaz Daniels?
Mm-hmm.
Really tough cat from Iowa. One of Militich's and Monty's, good guys, very muscular, well-trained. And he was a wrestler too. And we were about the same weight. He was, of course, taller. Imagine that. But went in, and took him down. Got side mount, and he got side or half guard on me. And man, the back of his heel was on the back of my shin. Like just bam, bam. I'm like, mother, And so I just started bam, bam. Then I got in full mount, and then I started the pounding of the headbutting again. And I actually back then you could hold hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm holding his hair while I'm doing this, and as I'm holding his hair, I'm going boom. I'm pulling his head up, and I'm headbutting him at the same time. And finally, he's scrambling around, and he's trying to stick his fingers in my mouth, in my eye. So, and this was behind the black curtain, man. This wasn't, but it was Jeff Osborne's show. You remember Jeff Osborne, right?
Mm-hmm. I've spoken with Jeff before.
Another legend right there in the MMA world, And so, so it was just game on. So I think that one was about another 22 to 25-minute fight too, and so that belt up there, which is I don't know who Charlie Smith is from the MMA Museum, but he'd been wanting that belt for a long time, and I won't sell it. And I got the medal up there that goes with it. I got the contract that goes with it. I have the whole thing and have it encased because I don't need the money, but if my kids ever want to get rid of it one day, or we do something for charity,
right?
I might do something. But I had some ups and downs in my career, that's for sure. But I was on a roll back then, and then I won a 4-man tournament up in North Dakota at the Four Bears Casino, which I fought Joel Sutton from the UFC in my first round of the 4-man tournament. And then after that, Joe Slick, which was one of Militich's top guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I won that tournament, won another belt. And then Monty Cox's Extreme Challenge. So it was, and then I started getting into pro wrestling and met some of the pro wrestlers. And at the same time, I got called to the UFC. Finally got my UFC debut. And I was scheduled to fight Vitor Belfort. Okay. And Vitor just took a loss from Randy Couture.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all going to fight in Japan in Christmas in 97. So my career, 11 fights in 97. You won't see that anymore either, okay?
Right.
So I thought I might be wrong, but I was either 10-1 or I was 10-0. But I was ranked in the world, top 8 in the world. And Vitor backed out of our fight on the flight out there. And so they scheduled Trey Telligman, which I still talk to Trey today. I don't know if you know him or not.
Yeah, Lions Den, missing.
Yeah, missing the pack. He's got Parkinson's now. It's very sick.
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we talk about every 2 weeks and see how he's doing. He sometimes he's incoherent, but he sends me stuff every now and then. That's when I know I can talk to him because he's remembering me, So Trey and I had a really good fight in UFC Japan 15.5. And that was a funny time because Lions Den back then was all cool and slick guys, and Shamrock's crew and Guy Metzger, and all super cool
all the
guys.
sideburns.
Yeah, and of course you trade Telligman, another guy who made his name in the UFC. So I'm like, oh my gosh, these are guys all experienced. That's my first UFC, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Coleman's supposed to come there and corner me. Mark passed out at LAX drunk.
Allegedly.
Gets a hold of me at my hotel, and it's probably midday here, and it's 3 a.m. there, right? And I said, "Oh, Kohler, what the F?" I'm like, Mark, what happened? I'm effing pissed. Oh, he's just telling me, I'm like, Mark, try to get here, man. I gotta go to sleep, brother. And so Joel Gold from Full Contact Fighter magazine was my corner man. Joel's a cool guy. You know Joel?
I know of him.
Yeah. So Joel Gold from Full Contact Fighter magazine, and he's got an incredible Instagram page with a lot of old fights that from those years, just amazing. You have Mark Kerr and Vochanchin and all those guys, and was the Axe Murderer, and you got some really legends that this guy got to hang out with, and so Joel Gold cornered me with Rico Ciparelli.
Okay. Yep.
Because I had nobody, and so Coleman was, he missed the boat. You love Mark to death, but and thank God he's doing great now. But boy, I tell you, back in the day, he was a
bit of a nightmare.
A little bit hard to deal with sometimes, but what, Mike, though, is again, I don't think I traded for anything, all those memories, but yeah, so that was my first UFC. I thought I still, even though I lost to Trey, I had a decent showing. It was a little nerve-wracking because in Japan, you could be like, just going at it, but you could hear a pin drop around
Silent.
It was it was weird.
Weird, sure.
Like nobody talked.
That's so strange.
Yeah. And and then when you see a potential submission start coming, that's when they start getting excited.
Yeah.
Armbar coming, and the crowd stands up and starts cheering, right? And then all of a sudden, nope, not today. You're pulling in, and the crowd just gets done with it. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, the great experience. I've been to Japan many times. Probably the most respectful people to Americans around the world. Had a great time with Maurice Smith, Boss Rutan. Those guys were out there then, and I remember them playing video games against each other and just so competitive in video games.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. Obviously, I want to ask you about the Steve Judson knockout. Going into that fight, did anything feel different? I've had fighters tell me that sometimes going into a fight, you feel it. You know that you're locked in. There's no chance that you're going to lose. How was it for you going into that fight?
Well, I came off the Trey Tellerman loss, and I had another fight, I think, with Monty as well, and I think I had another loss. So I think I was like 11-2, and just kind of like my career was kind of coming to an end, and it upset me because I didn't end where I wanted to be,
Right.
And so I went back to Ohio, wrestled back to my old high school. I kind of went back to my roots kind of thing, okay? Went back to wrestle in the old wrestling room with my coach and the sweating and the whole, back to the old school style. And Rich Giacchetti, who was Tyson's coach, was also a friend of mine that owned a gym. And, of course, he's training Tyson. So I went over there and got my face beat in by their boxers quite a bit, okay? So Rich had developed a good technique for me and stuff, and how to move in and out a little bit faster. And so when I went to in 97, I trained with Rich for about 3 days because I went to Ohio, trained for about 3 days, and then right away went to Japan. And then, but you see me dancing, bopping for. You ever see me like I'm moving? I'm like dancing because I'm short and I'm very quick with my double legs and my speed and everything. This is my design kind of stuff. So I kind of got into that, and so I took, I think it was a whole year, close to it, and focused on perfecting that, haymaker off the double leg kind of thing, So, and got better with submissions. Trained with Pat Miletich a lot and Jeremy and all those. Promoted shows here in Minnesota with Monty Cox, and just kind of that one there was real important to me because I thought I could beat Tim Silva back then. I thought that after training with him and seeing I could take him down, I could certainly control him once I got him to the ground. And back when the ground and pound was the game, if you wanted to basically, control a match and win, I thought I could have been a UFC champion. They weren't having that. So after my knockout, which was, of course, it was impressive. Still one of the top 5 in the world for all of fighting. And they would not give me a contract. The UFC would not give me a contract. And so, and I don't know, and I don't think it had anything to do with Monty other than Monty managed both me and Tim. Okay. And so this is when Rings Japan was opening up, and you had Pride. So all the really good guys were going to Pride, and then Randy Couture and I went to Rings. Then Dan Henderson came.
Yep.
And then let's see. trying to think who else signed with rings. I think maybe Jeremy Horn signed a little bit, but I signed a 9-fight contract.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, Joe Laurinaitis, Animal with the Road Warriors, came out there to help me negotiate the contract. And so part of the deal, to sweeten the deal, was that I would bring him with me in the corner me. And he'd wear his face paint. And Johnny Ace and some of the other pro wrestlers from the circuit out in Japan would also come and corner me, which they were like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great, you know. So sure enough, it was great. So we, you know, Joe made money and sold autographs and pictures and all kinds of stuff. And Joe's a big guy. We were really good friends. He passed away in 2020. So Animal with the Road Warriors, he's on the back of my trading card, which I have these. So he's, I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So he's in the back of my Japan trading card.
Nice.
And which I give them when you buy my book, Built for This, my plug here. Part of my you know, history of my life and my journey to running for governor. I wrote a really good book, and I throw this in as a bookmarker. So It's on my website, bradkohler.com. And I really don't talk about MMA much, you know. And it's not because I didn't love the sport and respect it or nothing like that. It's just, you know, I really wanted people to kind of know what kind of person I really was.
Mm-hmm.
I was really never one of those, you know, mean guys, you know.
Right.
I trained intense. I fought intense. But on the street, I was a pretty easygoing guy. So, but I took my training serious, you know. And so it doesn't talk about the stories that you're hearing today. So my third book, which will be a much bigger book like Monty's, with the stories and different chapters about the Mark Coleman chapter, you know.
Monty's book's great.
Oh gosh, I know. He's, and the thing is, he could have wrote a bigger book.
Oh yeah. He could do one every year of stories.
Yeah. But so yeah, you know, the UFC was great. Dana didn't own it then. It was still SEG and Meyerowitz and everything. I think Art Davies had already left. And that's when the UFC started really kind of going downtown. And then Zuffa came in and saved them, you know. And Dana, what they did to the UFC was, you know, a blessing to a lot of people who, this is the biggest stage in the world. It's the biggest than anything else. The biggest stage in the world, the UFC.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just blessed to get there, you know. So
in your career, who hit you the hardest?
Who hit me the hardest? So
doesn't have to be in a fight. It could be Tim Sylvia in the gym.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. You know, I got kicked by Travis in that rematch, broke my jaw, but I wasn't knocked out. I got kicked by Babalu, but I wasn't knocked out. I was actually so gassed. They pried me off a pro wrestling circuit with 2-day notice. I was so gassed after that first round. I could not have gotten up if I wanted to. So he kicked me, and you hear people say, "Oh yeah, no, I didn't lose any teeth." As he kicked me, though, I just kind of roll over and go, "Okay, well, I just won this fight, right?" He kicked me with shoes on, and so that was Jamie Levine's show, and they begged me not to. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, say, you know, cry foul.
Yeah, take the DQ win.
Yeah, I said, well, you know, what do you want to pay for it? Because you know, so they gave me a little extra money to take the loss. You know, nobody, and it is, you got to start taking your body serious as a business. You know,
yeah.
So yeah, I got paid a little extra to take the loss. You know, So, but I those really didn't hurt. I would say probably an unknown fighter that I trained here in Minnesota. He's only have a few fights under his belt, but you may have heard of Travis View.
Oh yeah.
God, I love Travis, man.
Yep.
He was the Brock Lesnar that people never heard of,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
just
that's a good analogy.
he had over 100 fights,
Hmm.
and training with him was like, oh my god! And I trained with the best. I trained with Coleman, all those guys, but when I trained with Travis, and I'd hold the pads for him,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh hell no, But I would, and he was either really on or really off,
Right.
But when I started training with Travis, I promised him that I'll get you to the UFC if you follow my path. And we also had our ups and downs.
Hmm.
Okay, you ever interviewed Travis?
No.
Okay, I'll give you his number.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
And we had our ups and downs, but you go through these confusing times as an athlete because we are a bunch of dumbasses. Okay? We all think we're better than sliced bread at times. We think that we deserve more. We always think we're getting ripped off
Sure.
because it's a very frustrating profession, being a
Hmm.
professional athlete. You're always hurting. You don't want to go train, but you have to. You know, the women are always mean to you. I mean,
Yeah. I talked to Big Daddy Gary Goodrich for a while about
oh yeah,
how
Big
mean they
Daddy.
are. Yeah.
Yeah. But but Travis, I would say, um, when he would hit you, I mean, he wasn't the boxing type of boxer.
Hmm.
He was this power that came with these short punches. And I'll tell you what, I should ask Jeff Munson how he felt about that because I
There we
think he
go.
fought Jeff a couple times
Hmm.
and beat Jeff, um, and he was a tough SOB too.
Yep.
But
Yeah. Jeff just retired last year, I believe.
I saw him fight. I'm like, this got to be a rematch or an old rerun, I should say. But
At this
no,
point, they're all rematches for Jeff.
yeah, yeah. Um, but Travis View,
Yeah.
probably the most underrated heavyweight, probably the best heavyweight to ever fight in Minnesota. And I'm not going to knock down Gable Stevens, but Travis lasted over 100 fights,
Hmm.
and he certainly, um, you know, had his, claim that now he's powerlifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I will reach out to him on
Okay.
Instagram and give him your phone number and make
Cool.
sure he gets
Awesome.
it. Okay.
Yeah, that would be spectacular.
Yeah, but he's he's world class.
Hmm. I have one more fight related question before we move on to Minnesota. On your personal Mount Rushmore of MMA fighters, any era, any combat sport, any discipline, who are the top four fighters to ever live?
Well, let's see. Top fighters ever live. Let's see. Let me see here real quick here. I'm just gonna look for a second here. Um, and I don't know if you can hear the wife in the other room, but I'm gonna tell her to peep it down.
I can't. I can't hear.
Uh, so I want to say Randy Couture in the top four.
Hmm.
I want to say Brock Lesnar in the top four.
Okay.
Um, Frank Shamrock.
Love Frank. He's been on the show.
Yeah. I love his story too.
Mm-hmm.
But the number one fighter in the world, hands down, he's the only one to ever win, I think it was 3 UFC belts, not to mention an 8-man tournament. He won the Pride Championship. I think that was a 32-man tournament.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Olympic team member
Mm-hmm.
and national champion. And he was my good friend. Well, still is my good friend. And, just a champion in life, Mark Coleman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean,
all right,
the accolades show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can put people up there and say, oh, you've had a good fight, but to win a tournament,
mm-hmm.
and the only reason why, because you'll never see 8-man tournament again, or not even a 4-man tournament.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never see those again. To win those in those days back then, I was there when Scott Ferozzo beat Tank Abbott. Tank's in the back room, dead.
Mm-hmm.
IVs and oxygen. The alternate from Brazil would not touch Coleman. He's like, no, I won't fight you. No. And so Randleman's there with Coleman. They do an exhibition match, and people are booing because nobody would continue. So Coleman won that by disqualification because Ferozzo was in the back laying on his ass. And I actually know Scott. He lives right here in Forest Lake, Minnesota. But I mean, his claim to fame, we all have it. Love the guy, super great guy. He beat Tank Abbott.
Mm-hmm.
An amazing night for him. But unfortunately, and Don Fry was in his corner. Unfortunately, he, had to get ready for Mark Coleman, and he needed a week.
Yeah.
After that, he needed a week. So you think about an 8-man tournament in one day, one night. You got to be a beast.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be the best, And so when I train with Coleman, I mean, we train for wrestling, where most wrestlers know this. You may wrestle 6-7 times in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling is harder than fighting. You know why, right?
I assume because you have a coach telling you to do it instead of a referee saying to stop every so often.
You cannot stall in wrestling.
There you go.
You can dance around the cage of the ring all you want to in fighting and, pace your fight. But when you're pushed to connect and keep moving back and forth, action,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have action, you get put down. You get put down 3 times, you lose. You don't see many disqualifications in wrestling from someone who's out there quitting the entire time because wrestlers are trained to go. Wrestlers are trained to not give up ground. Okay. So that's why wrestling, in these tournaments, again, with the fighting tournaments will never happen again. And of course, it's won by a wrestler because that's what we train for, to win the tournaments that are usually in one day. Sometimes 2. Yeah.
How do you, so many guys transition from active fighting to owning a gym, training, coaching, that kind of thing. How do you go from fighting to politics? How does that work out?
Well, I did own a gym. I did train. I trained Travis. I trained Matt the Yeti Larson here, who was a top Minnesota fighter, and I came out of a retirement I shouldn't say retirement. I came out of walking away from the sport for a long time to train Matt Larson because I saw the desire in him to want to do this, And so there, for a heavyweight here in Minnesota, to take the time that he needed someone who's going to show him how to fight like a heavyweight,
Right.
And Brock Lesnar was out of the question. And Matt Larson had his big day too. He fought Lashley in a pay-per-view fight that I got. Brandon Lashley? No, what's his name?
Bobby
Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a big man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt and Bobby weighed the same at weigh-ins, but you look at the two and you go,
That's different. Yeah, that's different.
But he's another gentleman that could have just, but big heart, Matt Larson, yeah. But I did train up until 2012 was my last fight. I tried to come back, and again, we talked about this.
Mhm.
I was in a plane crash. I ended up losing my 3-snap fitnesses. I lost my contract in Japan. I lost my home. Ended up violating to my probation from a stupid assault charge that I was charged with because, number one, I was a UFC fighter, and secondly, built like a brick house, and you're not allowed to defend yourself here in Minnesota. So while my kids are in the car and I'm being carjacked, I should have just let him have the kids and the car and not defend myself or my kids. So that's the
Take
law.
that charge every time.
Hence the book, built for this. Story of my life, what got me into politics and all the wrongdoings, the unjust injustice. And so because of being in a plane crash, I ended up in a violation, and they put me back in the workhouse. I was losing everything anyway because I was in a plane crash. I was down for 9 months. And when I got out, I decided, I'm going to take some fights. And, just want to prove myself again, And I just, 1 second here. I'm just going to. All right, sorry.
No, you're okay.
And but yeah, I started my life over again. I got out. I was broke. I was homeless, and I was hungry. And I, had to bring me back to me, prove that I still am worth it. So the last time I was in, I only did 40 days in the workhouse, so it wasn't like I, went to prison, and I invented my boxing machines while I was in there because I said, here we go again. I can't get a job. So either I fight or I own a business, and now I'm broke and homeless. I don't know how I'm going to own a business. So I trained people at McCune's Martial Arts, which I lived in the back of McCune's Martial Arts for almost 18 months while I built my life back up. Invented my combo hitters and haymakers, and sold them to Zebra Mats. I still talk to the owner, although they parted ways with Fuji Mats and Zebra Mats, and took the money, opened up my first juice bar in LA Fitness, and then my daughter came aboard with me, and we opened up 9 more. So we had 10 juice bars. After a couple of years, the guys from Fuji, Jimmy Pedro, left Zebra Mats, and Chuck Polanski, the owner of Zebra Mats, didn't have any engineers or could not complete the, finalization of our contract for the combo hitter. So I got the products back for nothing. And I'm thinking this is my golden ticket, get these things selling, and boom, I could collect the royalties and what have you. And that all went to crap when they separated and things happened. So I just had to get in the market. So I sold all the juice bars, spent about $500,000 to perfect the right prototype, and perfected the product. I then met some people. We started manufacturing in China. Things were going good. I got ripped off from China. Then started manufacturing myself. I had to learn how to weld. I had to learn how to drill. I had to learn all that stuff that I never did in my life because I got ripped off heavily from China. So out of my garage while raising my kids as a single father, I grew my company, Rogue Fitness, of course, one of the biggest CrossFit companies, and probably the biggest in the world, took my product and helped me brand my product. They sold more combo hitters on their fitness website than I can't thank them enough, because I was selling 200-300 a month. Although I was drop shipping for them and they were making most of the money, it was building my brand and I was paying my bills. So I kept learning. They mentored me. I got with Ringside Magazine. They were selling them. I got with Rival Sports in Canada, and a couple other ones from Australia and the Netherlands. And I was shipping overseas now, so I was learning about logistics and overseas shipping and containers. And then things were going fantastic. I grew out of my garage. I had containers in my driveway that I'm filling up and shipping out all over the place, right? And so I decided to open up a gym using my boxing products, like title boxing, and call it Combo Fit. So it was combo hitters, the haymakers, and the combo kicker. Then I had fitness equipment. I had a juice bar, because here I am with my experience with juice bars, right? In LA Fitness. I had the best protein shakes, brother. I tell you what, prepackaged meals. I mean, it was great. We had a big fitness floor, beautiful gym. COVID hits. Okay. So boom, we went from a packed gym to an empty gym for 3 months, trying to build it back up. Boom, COVID hits again. Shut us down again. So again, now built for this, tell us about the story of why in the heck did I get into politics? We have 4 states around us, no shutdowns, no masks. Minnesota, masks, shutdowns. Not just that, but the George Floyd riots. Now we're open, but we have a curfew. We can't be open past 6 o'clock at night. So in a gym, that's your business.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we lost a little over $300,000 in 2020. Ooh. And I said, I'm going to run for governor. This guy is making bad decisions. I've never been in politics before. As a matter of fact, as a business owner, it's one of the things you kind of shy away from, because you never know where that's going to take, right? Mm-hmm. So I shied away from that. And when I dove in, though, kind of like everything else, I gave it my all. I dove in, wanted to find out, what's all going on. And this is a very blue state. And those of you who don't know what I mean is very democratic state, which means very liberal. Again, there's no stand your ground law. People here are it's upside down. It's just, we've had the biggest a-hole governor in the world. He's the worst in the country. We've had more fraud and more international news, national news, not to mention state news, because of this administration stealing from us. We're one of the highest tax rated states in the country. Businesses are leaving, people are leaving, and this is a great state. It's a beautiful state. And so knowing I could go back to Ohio and have a much easier life, I have my kids here, they're staying here, and I wanted to fight for not just their future, but if they're going to have grandkids, or I'm going to have grandkids, I want to make sure that they're so, us wrestlers, we don't like to give up ground.
Right. How do you maintain integrity in politics? Everyone, politicians have a reputation. How do you maintain yours?
I don't listen to them. I ran for Senate I started in 2020. I learned how, I got into the GOP and the Republican Party. They said, oh, you got to hire this person, you got to hire that person. And I'm listening to these people tell me what to do. I'm going, that doesn't sound like a brand. Like, I just got done building and branding and manufacturing my own product, from napkin to international success. Mm-hmm. This is not how you really bring in the masses here, so it's very expensive to run. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's even more time consuming if you don't want to spend the money. So I have the concept here in Minnesota, you need 1.6 million votes. So rather than going out and saying, hey, I need a donation. Hey, let me beg for you to, help me out here financially. I went out and I made 1.6 million friends. So between the fighting, after starting that here in 1999, the juice bars, my restaurants, everything that I've been involved with, getting out and networking with those people to grow my, other networks. And so, if you want to win a war, you show up to the war with a bigger army, right? And in politics, typically people look for, I'm Republican, I'm voting Republican. Well, do you know the guy? No, but I'm Republican. Okay.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. If your friend was running and you align with your friend because you guys are good friends and you think the same way, you have the same belief system, your friend can pick up the phone and talk to him, right? And hey man, what's going on with it? Oh, let me tell you. Let me get you the from the horse's mouth, right? Would you vote for your party or your friend?
Right. Yeah.
So I ran for Senate. I learned, what goes on for a state office. Then I ran for Congress because I wanted to learn the federal level as well with Washington. How does it help with the federal funding and going back and forth and all that BS? And then I ran for county commissioner because of a budgetary process of learning how to budget on a local level. And the Hennepin County commissioner position I ran for, we almost won with very minimal money. And it was about handshaking. Okay. So he had it's a $2.8 billion budget in Hennepin County here in Minnesota that the guy's a fraud. He works less than 20 hours a week for $150,000 a month or a year. Okay. So the guy's a fraud. He hasn't done nothing like most of the politicians. So when I jumped into the race late because I was running for Congress, then I conceded to the guy that won the endorsement. And then I jumped in with 9 weeks to go. We got some help from National Marketing Committee, people that Donald Trump had used, and got some good advice from them. We did it. I have a really good videographer. We had 3 videos go viral. We marketed through Meta, marketing on Facebook and Instagram, and all of a sudden things just started blowing up. Everything was going viral, and we lost a lot in the early voting. Okay, so my opponent spent $47,000 to keep his seat. He got 44,000 votes. I got 37,000 votes and spent $1,800.
Nice.
So we took this method and really started networking. I dove in almost right away, saying I'm running for governor, and I dove in December of 24, which is almost a year ago. So I've been going ever since, building my network. And again, when I say I started in my phone with 250 phone numbers, now I'm over 10,000. It's true. So a lot of people I talk to on social media. I'm on live tonight on TikTok, and it keeps growing more and more and more. People want a change. They don't want the same old, same old. So how do I stay away from being like a politician? They have these, it's called the BPOUs. Okay. Your basic operating basic political operating unit. Okay. In every area. Okay. And these people here put on events, and for this one, they've been putting on a lot of the gubernatorial candidate forums. Well, they go around and they have these things, these meetings that, 50 to 100 people show up and all the candidates are there, and you guys say, what would you do if this happened? Or, how would you correct this? And you go into your spiel. But the problem with all that is I've been doing this now for a couple of years, and it's kind of like shooting the same fish in the same barrel. And the delegates who are the volunteer, wannabe famous people that think they're special, they are the ones who judge you for the endorsement. Okay. Well, I'm certainly not endorsable because of my background, number one. And two, I don't think like them. I have a different platform, and it's not, yes, I'm very conservative, and I believe I'm a true Republican, not like these sacksuckers. Okay. And so I believe in talking to the real people. So 5 years ago, by chance, I got really heavily involved with the Southeast Asian community, which consists of the Vietnamese, the Lao, and the Cambodian. So very well branded with them and endorsed by them. The Libertarians, the Ojibwe tribe here, the Hmong community, which is over 100,000 voting Hmong, and they're now endorsing me. I'm involved heavily with the Hispanic and the Black communities now. So when you think of the delegates that go to the state convention that are there to endorse a candidate, that's great, but it's less than 0.5% of the state, because there's 300 delegates that, it goes from massive, then comes down to from 1,000 down to a couple hundred that vote in endorsement. Okay, so they're all brainwashed. They're all in the corner whispering who's their favorite candidate, and basically, if they don't like you, you're screwed. Well, they cheat. Both parties cheat. Okay. So I'm going through the process, the endorsement. There's a lot of them I like. A lot of them are for me. But when it comes down to it, they cheat. And I witnessed this in my congressional race when my people that were back there supposed to be counting were kicked out. When I showed up with the majority amount of delegates, doing it as a loyal Republican, and my people were kicked out of the back, my people were like going, well, how did you get such low votes? We brought enough people. They cheated. So, and hey, you do this whole interview. Believe me, I'm a very humble person. I know when I make mistakes, I call it like I see it, and that's what we don't have enough of. You always drive by the airports and you see, if you see something, say something, right? And those signs up. That's the problem on both parties. If they see something, they don't say nothing. This is how we've gotten, people have gotten away with the fraud here, the undermining of plea bargaining in our corrupt justice system, and I could keep going. So to me, it's all about, I may lose, but I'm not going to lose my integrity.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So again, showing up to the war with a bigger army is the plan, and these House reps, these senators, you catch them sleeping in a session. You catch them watching movies. They don't show up and still get paid. I don't know if you heard the last year when they were in session that the Democrats didn't show up for 12 days. They boycotted showing up because one of their people was going to jail for breaking into the mother-in-law's house here in Minnesota. A senator.
Jeez.
Yeah. There's between the House members, these pedophile House members, and the senator criminals, and not all of them, don't get me wrong, I don't exaggerate here. There's a few good ones, but you kind of get burnt out trying to be a good one when no one will listen to you, and you have a governor that won't help you.
Right.
So, but it can be corrupt if you let it, if you have poor leadership. So I'm a businessman. I've always had the best retention, and I do things by the book. And I believe in accountability. That's how you become a champion. You can't say you did something and not do it and expect to get the best results. So when you ask me, how do I keep my true character and that, it's not being like them. Don't let them suck you into the system.
Right.
I don't need people's PAC money because I don't want to owe anybody. Okay. I'm a grinder. You know what I'm talking about. You can't get through the system unless you go through the system. Well, I don't want to go through this system because
Right.
you're corrupt.
Yep.
Yeah. So I work from the outside. I work with the people. I've developed a team that when I get in there, I can make some changes, the right changes, kind of like what Donald Trump did. He had the same fight that I have. You're fighting two parties, and it's very expensive to fight two parties.
I can't imagine. I'm to the section of the interview where I'm going to ask you some questions that I promise you've never been asked in an interview, whether it was political or fight related before. Hopefully, some of these make you laugh. Some of them probably make you question whether or not you should have done this interview. But I want people to get to know you on a personal level. Make the politician, the professional face smasher, more like the rest of us. How about that?
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. If you could spar any president, who would it be?
A spar?
Yeah. Any president in history, who would you want to spar?
I wouldn't want to spar him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Biden would be, you'd really look bad hitting Biden. Okay. And if he was 100%, that'd be a different story. Obama, I was in a video with my really good black friend, who's one of my best friends. And as I'm sparring with him, actually, I'm hitting the focus. He's got the mitts on, and I'm hitting the focus mitts, right? And one person commented, going, "Oh, there's another white man hitting a black man." I'm like, "Oh, so you can't win on some situations, okay?"
Right.
I love Trump. Kennedy, phenomenal president there. The Bushes, Reagan was by far my best president. Gerald Ford. I mean, they all had good and bad things. Of course, Nixon, I'm not a crook, but they all had good and bad things about them, and they're just men. And I look back at when I was promoting the shows here in Minnesota, the mistakes I made, and the people that, it didn't go so well with them sometimes. And so you're in a position of power, and you're always a target. And so, that's the role they take, and you got to honor that role that they take.
What's the best Rocky movie?
Oh my gosh, Rocky IV.
There we go, Ivan Drago.
Yeah, I
All
must
right.
break you.
Exactly.
Plus, I guess I'm shorter than everybody else, so I loved that whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, what do you like better, pulled pork or brisket?
Pulled pork or brisket? Pulled pork.
Okay. Both in their prime, who wins, Ali or Tyson?
Tyson destroys him.
Okay. Are you saying that because you're short and stocky?
No, the power that Mike Tyson has in their prime. It was just, in their prime.
Yep.
No, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Who plays you in the Hollywood blockbuster movie about your life?
Tom Hardy.
There we go. I like that one. Again, both in their prime, who wins, GSP or Anderson Silva?
Boy, I'll tell you what. Anderson Silva.
There we go. I agree. All right.
And I know both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I ask everybody this question, and it's because everybody has a preference. In your bathroom at home, does the toilet paper feed over the roll or under?
This was the second question my wife asked me when we were dating.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm not the only one interested.
So we're both from Cleveland area. Okay? And who was my favorite football team? Pittsburgh. Hers, Pittsburgh. Okay. Over or under? Over. I'm good. I'm in.
That's great. I love that. All right. Favorite animal at the zoo?
The elephants.
The elephants. Okay,
Yeah.
that's my mother-in-law's favorite animal as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. What sounds better, fans cheering or voters clapping?
Oh, fans cheering. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Hopefully it's me they're cheering for.
Right. Let's see here. Are you where you are today due to hard work or natural talent?
Yeah, I was not gifted. It was hard work all the way. If I let up for a second, I slip back. That's what the training is, your accountability to prevent you from slipping back. Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Do you think politicians should settle their differences in the ring?
Ooh, one of it was co-ed.
I would never suggest that ever.
Not even like oil wrestling. The oil wrestling. Damn it.
Other people can suggest whatever. I, with my fledgling podcast, would never
I
suggest
don't
that.
think you get to that level of political. You should be able to negotiate. And again, it's not about you; it's about the people.
Yep.
If it doesn't better the people, okay, it should never come to an argument, let alone a fight.
Okay. I like that. If Minnesota were a fighter, describe its style.
Oh gosh. Right now, the right now how it is, okay, okay. And don't get me wrong, because I love this guy. He's one of the first UFC fighters, okay, from Minnesota too. All right, and he's super super good guy, Fred Edish.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that name.
He ended up curling in the corner and getting beaten up, okay, and only because you know he's one of my favorite fighters at the same time, but Minnesota is very liberal, and so people here talk tough, but when you all of a sudden get out of the car and they're shitting their pants, okay, and and that's why in Minnesota, like assault crimes are high because it's always the second one getting in trouble.
Hmm.
Okay, these liberals open their mouth up, and sure enough, then they get caught in this fight and they get the crap again. And it's just the word Karen started here in Minnesota, by the way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. You are going to go commit a bank robbery, and you have to take two people with you, a gunman and a getaway driver. Who are you taking? Hypothetical.
Do they get to be my cellmates too?
Yes.
Or do I not get caught? We get caught?
Caught.
All right. So Jennifer Aniston. Who is
She's a getaway driver, right?
My Hollywood crush, okay?
I get it.
All right. And I'm going to say Megan Fox.
There you go.
She's my driver.
There you go. That's a good combo.
I'm in the backseat with Jennifer Aniston, and we're going to jail, baby. Let's get a quick.
There we go. That's great. Brad, for anyone who's watching this that's maybe going through personal hard times right now or feeling broken or maybe like giving up, what advice or message would you share with them?
Tough times don't last. Tough people do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a little cliche I'm saying here. I mean, I've been broke, homeless, and hungry. I mean, really homeless twice in my life where I've been knocked down, and I don't think I'm anything special. I'm just one of those people who I know I was meant to do more. And once you also build that life between you and Jesus Christ, you have a person that always have your back and you can always talk to. And, if you listen, if you really open yourself up and listen, I think that you'll be guided by the right, decisions. And, but, to have true character in life, you have to do the right thing when no one's looking. So, if you quit, you know, that's it. I mean, that's it. It's like your life ends, and in my book, okay, again, go to the website, bradkohler.com. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chapter in here called The Dash.
Okay.
And it talks about the most overlooked thing on a gravestone. Think about what's on a gravestone. Okay.
Name, date,
Right. What's between the dates?
the hyphen.
The dash.
Yeah.
That's your journey here in life.
Mm-hmm.
The dates are, but what did you do while you were here? Yeah, we all stumble, but were you loved? Were you liked it all? Did people hate you? How would they remember you?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you stumble and fall, is this how you want to be remembered? There is greatness in all of us. And if you know that and you have spirituality, then you know you have the DNA of a God.
Mm-hmm.
Do not fail yourself, first and foremost. And so, keep going, talk to people. Okay. And when I mean, like when I said earlier about that sign by the airport about if you see something, say something. You may be down on your luck, but if you see somebody else down on luck, say something to them.
Yep.
Maybe you're encouraging them to not kill themselves that day or drink or whatever. But I mean, that feels good when you're helping other people. So if you're feeling down, help other people. When I was released from the workhouse and I was living in the back of a gym during the day, I changed my life by looking at my social media and said, I'm not going to be one of these mean guys anymore that rips on heavy people, people that, or whatever the reason. I said, I'm not going to be that guy no more. If you look at my Facebook page all the way back to 2011, there's spiritual, inspirational things. And I built the people up around me on my Facebook page that needed that.
Mm-hmm.
Reached out to me. Thank you. I was so down today, so I saw your post. The simplest little things can get you out of that rut that you're in. And believe me, there's nothing wrong with rock bottom being the foundation you start your life on again.
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to do it right this time.
Absolutely.
There's no rush.
Yeah.
There's no rush. So, and just, listen to those motivational things on the YouTube. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Ashbrook, Derek Thomas and Les Brown, all those guys I listen to all the time. Eric Thomas and Bobby Ashbrooks, and they're all a little bit different. I listen to them every morning at the gym, and that's how I start my day off. Going, I'm ready to start my day off. Of course, coffee too helps, but but yeah, I mean, also reach out to us. Mike will talk to you. I'll talk to you. We've been through it. If anything, we'll listen to you. And one thing I'll never say to you is this: you need to do this, or you have to do this, or you should do this.
You better do that. Yeah.
I will not do that. I did this with my kids. And they say, oh, no. I go, well, what do you think you should do? What would you like to do? Well, how would you like to get there? Let's plan out your journey. And, once you can walk somebody through that, you then are making this plan on your own. And so, because I don't walk in your shoes. I had a guy today that I had to fire because you need to get a bus. I'm like, dude, stop this. It costs money to do that stuff. Well, go out there and raise more money. I'm like, if I could reach the phone and smack somebody. Okay. And all these things sound easy and sound nice, but they don't walk in our shoes. So again, pen to paper. How should you do it? You get stuck. Call somebody. The only way in life to cut a corner is to reach out to a mentor to help you get there quicker. That's the end of my spiel.
Brad, what is the best way for fans, friends, and voters to stay in touch and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is bradkohler.com.
Okay.
If you do go to there and subscribe, you don't have to donate or buy a book. If you go there and subscribe, I do respond to everybody. You get my personal email and my personal phone number. Okay. Again, this isn't about politics all the time. It's about people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you live in Nevada and you're going through a tough time and you want to reach out to me, just talk to me and say, hey, you know, I do. I got a kid out of Florida that asked me how I got into fighting. How can I help him get into fighting? You know, hook them up with a trainer down there and say, I check with him weekly and say, how's it going?
Great.
You know, so I don't mind, you know. Yeah, it's bradkohler.com. Okay.
Awesome. Brad, I don't have anything else. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or maybe somebody you want to shout out before we get off here?
You know, met a lot of great people in my life. Those of you that have been in my life, I love you guys. I want to thank you for the memories. And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to, of course, win the governor position here and be a person you can all be proud of as well. So I do this for the people that, you know, for the little people that are tired of being screwed, for the poor that are tired of being screwed by the rich, to the weak getting screwed by the powerful. You know, we're the underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing about being an underdog is not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog, right?
That's right, man.
All right.
Brad, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been awesome. I really enjoyed it. I'll get this uploaded as soon as we get off here. It'll probably take a half hour or so. When it gets on YouTube, I'll send you the first copy, man.
Oh, man. Hey, thank you. Hey, seriously, dude, I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Your story is incredible, too. And I told you, write that book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I will. I'll get back with you about Travis.
Oh, yeah. I'll text it to you, okay?
Awesome. Thank
right,
you.
bro.
Have a great rest of your night, Brad.
You too, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.